Golf's no different from hockey. Requires talent, self-discipline.
Golf requires goofy pants and a fat ass. You should talk to my neighbor, the accountant, probably a great golfer, huge ass.
How do you measure yourself with other golfers? By height.
It's a very, very special honor.
I'm Paula Creamer, and you're listening.
Well, we're waiting.
Hi, this is Martin Cove, a.k.a. John Kreese from Cobra Kai, and you're listening to
Quiet, Please.
Let the word go out from here across the land that Daddy Noonan approved.
Hi, boys. Nice day for golf, isn't it? Quiet, please. Oh, you got secrets, eh?
Hey, this is Shooter McGavin. You're listening to the...
Hey, you guys. Hey, we're trying to have a podcast over here.
Indeed, we are. Welcome once again, everyone, to Quiet Please, the Golf Podcast. I'm Alan DePew, and you have found our little virtual living room where we kick back, talk a little bit the latest happenings in the world of golf, the men and women that are shaping the game. And as always, I am joined by my esteemed panel. And I should also throw this in right from the start. If you have some questions, and you may for our special guest host today, please do not hesitate to chime in. Keep it clean, and we will try to get those things on the air. Boston Bob Baldessari, he lands and rushes right into the studio. Bobby,
I did land back. I was down in Sunshine State for a week of business and landed a few hours ago, and just got here. And there's not as much bourbon on display in Florida as in Kentucky. Figure that out. Interesting.
Well, you know, the sunshine of Florida, and I'm sitting up in 22 inches of snow in the Northeast, and I got lucky. Some people got 30. So, yeah, it's beautiful up here. B.E. Brendan Elliott. Welcome. And a special guest, and I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce him because you have a longer relationship, and you're going to be down. You live down in an area where he's going to be here shortly.
Yeah, anybody that's a Orlando local, and I guess I can call myself that since I've moved down in '96 from upstate New York. But anybody that's been in the area for a long time knows the name Sam Saunders. Yes, for his famous grandfather Arnold Palmer, but he really made a name for himself in the junior ranks and the high school ranks. That's where I got to first know him and watch him. His greatness with the golf club when he was at Trinity Prep, right, Sam?
The glory days, yes.
Glory days, yeah. So Sam Saunders is our guest this week as we prepare for next week's the big week here in Orlando of the Bay Hill, at Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. So Sam, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Great to be on today. Excited to be in Orlando and see you there next week. And obviously really excited to have Arnold Palmer Invitational. It looks like the weather's going to be good. And yep. I'm out here in sunny Colorado right now. We need some of that 30 inches of snow you got up there. Send it our way. Cause
you know what? My golf course hasn't seen a golfer in 3 months. So you're happy to have all the snow you want, Sam.
Well, our golf courses are closed out here because it's so dry. They don't want people on them. So it's, whichever problem you want more.
So obviously Bay Hill, I'll see, I'm going to ignite the contract. I think it's the fifth major. I can't wait to hear about some stories from Bay Hill. But I got a question. B.E., we talk about this. I wish Andy was not traveling today because I would love to have his take on this. As Andy always says, it's the next man up. Is Jacob Bridgeman the next man up?
I tell you what, it's really cool to see someone kind of working their way to that point, and then they finally get it done the next week. He's been playing well most of the year, but his play from Thursday through Saturday last week was unbelievable. And anytime you can lead the field in strokes gain, approach, and putting, that's probably going to result in some good things. And it was phenomenal. He got in that situation that's kind of a rarity, unless you're talking like Tiger in the past and a couple others where you can kind of put it on cruise control on Sunday. It did get a little interesting there at some points. I thought Rory was going to come up and snag it from him, but yeah, he looks pretty good.
Bobby did look like the nerves kicked in, as one would expect, but I mean,
well, maybe it's hey, there was a certain golfer, Sam, in 1966 that had a big lead in a big tournament, and it didn't work out too well for him. Thinking back historically, I love the history of the game. And I do have a trivia question tonight, so keep that in mind. Not about that other one, but yeah, it's, it's a mindset thing. You get the big lead. It's like anything in sports. The team's got the big lead. NASCAR, you get a big multi-lap lead. The mindset come from behind. You go for it. The mindset, you're ahead. You're protecting. It's an interesting way. If you're a first-time winner, I think I'd rather have a little bit of a lead to be a little more comfortable. But it makes for exciting TV coming down the end. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Sam, what's your perspective on that? And then the other thing, I guess I'll throw it out to any of you guys, is they made a lot about the fact that he rooms or is best friends with Goddard, who's also enjoying a lot of success. Does that success feed off each other? Is as BE said, has he got all the tools?
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, Jacob's one of my buddies out there. I played practice rounds with him when I was still playing on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's a Clemson guy. I was a Clemson guy. So we got connected, albeit I'm 12 years, I'm a long time ago from when I played to when he was there. But, I saw instantly when I played with him that he was an elite ball striker. If you ask most guys on tour, you can see and hear an elite ball striker within about 3 swings. And Jacob was one of those guys. He's not the fastest. Everybody talks about speed now, and I'm so tired of hearing fast and speed and all that stuff. But yes, guys who swing the club fast, it makes a sound. But there's a purity and a consistency to the strike with elite ball strikers that speed is not the sole factor. And Jacob has that. He's got a consistency with his move and a stability with the club face that just not many guys have. So I wasn't surprised to see what he was doing. And it's hard. I think what Jacob did this past weekend is he showed you how many great players there are out there, but he also showed how hard it is to win on the PGA Tour. I mean, it is, we don't talk about that enough. Everybody looks at, Rory or what Tiger did or what guys like Phil did. I mean, that's 1 in a trillion to have happen. And Jacob is going in the more normal route where he's climbed his way up through Korn Ferry onto the PGA Tour. He started getting top 10s. He started showing consistency, but it's really hard to break through. And I love what he said in his post-round interview about those putts on the last 2 holes, because I knew exactly what he was feeling. And he said it perfectly. He said, I couldn't feel my hands. And unless you've been in that situation, you don't know what it's like, because the club is there and you can see it. But quite honestly, it doesn't feel like it's there. And he was as honest as he could be. But I was so happy for him, and I was so happy for his caddy G-Dub. We're good buddies. We go back a long way. We used to room together time to time. So really happy for those two. And I think the sky's the limit for Jacob.
I'm going to jump in with a different. I didn't realize you were a Clemson guy.
That's right. Yeah.
Nice.
I was there. I played at Clemson 07 to 09.
Nice. I've got a son down in Greenville, so I'm going to head down that way shortly. So
yeah, it's a great spot. Yeah,
great spot.
Keep in touch with a lot of my former friends and teammates there. Yeah.
You said something interesting, Sam, and I'm looking at the leaderboard right now, and we see Austin Sutherman, shooting a 62 today this week, and that's not an easy golf course to shoot a 62, but I don't think the Korn Ferry Tour really gets the respect from the mainstream golf fan of how good these guys are. You just look at last year, the number of rounds 62 and under, it was dozen plus rounds in that. Can you speak on that a little bit about, because you grinded out there on Korn Ferry, can you speak on that about just how amazingly good the crop of golfers is out there?
Yeah, I'd love to speak on that. And it's, I think what you said is perfect. It does not get the respect or recognition that it deserves from the average golf fan. When it gets called a developmental tour, it's the biggest, misnomer that could ever happen, because the guys out there are, when you win on the Korn Ferry Tour and you're coming off that, you're ready to be, the next best players in the world. It's not a developmental tour. These guys are, I would actually argue, having experienced both, it's sometimes harder to make cuts on the Korn Ferry Tour than it is on the PGA Tour. if you look at the bottom, to me, the depth of talent on the Korn Ferry Tour through the field versus, you know, a traditional PGA Tour event depth through a full field, you know, there's no major medical guys. There's no past champion category. These are guys that are in their early 20s, hungry and grinding every single day, all day. And they don't, you know, they don't have a wife and kids at home. Most of them, like they are truly committed to this career, and they are so talented. And it's so competitive out there. So I think the Korn Ferry Tour is something that people really need to pay attention to as to who's going to be the next superstar in golf.
So we had actually Kevin Roy on here, I think now a couple of times, and there's a guy who enjoyed some success. B, I know you've chatted with him, you've interviewed him a few times. Enjoyed success on the Korn Ferry. He said largely the same as you. It's the depth of talents. If you didn't go low on the Korn Ferry, and it was a whole different perspective once he got onto the tour, the big tour, because missing a pin short side, you're doomed. You
can't do that on the PGA Tour, you know.
Right.
But Korn Ferry Tour, it's like every round is like a Monday qualifier, right? If you're not, I mean, and yes, sometimes they play courses that are a little bit easier as a whole. But you know, even look at the Cognizant this week down there at PGA National. I mean, that course used to be, Brennan, to your point, one of the hardest courses on tour, but they've softened it a little bit. I mean, the scores consistently over the last couple of years, they're not as aggressive with the setup there. The rough isn't as challenging, and the greens just aren't as firm and fast. So you're going to get those low scores. But also there is a mentality to what you're talking about. And guys on the Korn Ferry Tour, they know you've got to go shoot 6, 7 under par, 8 under par on a course just to kind of keep up, unless you get, you know, a Panama, for instance, on Korn Ferry where it's really windy and really firm. Guys are just, they are of the mentality that you got to go low out there, and it carries over. And sometimes ignorance is bliss. You show up at a course like, you know, PGA National, and they say, well, why wouldn't I shoot 62 here?
Good point. Speaking of going low, can you give some thoughts on that 59 you shot? That was in what year was that?
2017, I think. Yeah.
And it was the first round right out of the gate?
Yeah, first round at the it was the web.com finals, the tour championship there at Atlantic Beach Country Club. I lived about a mile from the golf course at that time, so I think I either rode a moped or took my golf cart to the course that day. And you know, I played in the first round with Steve Wheatcroft and Ryo Ishikawa. And you know, Ryo Ishikawa is like a legend in golf floor. Like he was a stud at 16 type of deal. And between the three of us that day, so I shot 59, Steve shot 62, and Ryo shot even par with 8 birdies. So we had like, you know, 35 under between the three of us, minus Rio's bogeys there. But it was a really fun day. And Steve was, you know, really good buddy of mine, still is, and we played a lot of our golf together. So it was a really fun day to play well in that first round. And most importantly for me, my wife and my oldest son Cohen were able to watch me make the putt on the last hole to shoot 59. So that was you know, one of my favorite moments of my career.
Hey, Sam, you know, you're talking about, you know, how spectacular everybody is on the Korn Ferry. I mean, the pro tours in general, you've got a lot of players that started as small kids in youth golf. And we've talked about it on this show. My background, my dad was a PGA pro. Brendan's a national award winner for PGA. I've helped get a lot of youth things going in the sport. And generationally, the youth keeps getting better and better. The instruction's better. The tournaments they play in are better. The competition's better. The instruction's better, the equipment's better. Everything generationally gets better. And what, like, as you're looking at, you know, maybe, you know, with having kids, and what would be your guidance on kids now getting into the sport that, you know, there's that deflection of far as like, I just want to have fun and it's a recreation, or, hey, I want to try to get to the highest level possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a balance, right? Because everything has changed, right? I mean, these kids, it's so much different. I didn't see my swing on video until I went to college, and that was wild for me. And I didn't have training. I had weightlifting class every semester that I took in high school, and you know, I walked and played, and I played a lot of golf. I didn't, you know, I hit a lot of golf balls, and I played a lot of golf, and I had short games with my buddies, and I got good at golf because I did it a lot. I didn't have formal training like these kids get now at 13, 14, or gosh, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old now. It seems like we host a U.S. kids event at Latrobe Country Club in Pennsylvania, and it's amazing. I'm watching these 6 to 12-year-old kids, and they all look like little professionals. So it has changed immensely. However, I do think you cannot forget the past and what worked for people 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It still works today. You need to have a balance of, being an artist with the golf ball and having feel and creativity while taking advantage of TrackMan and coaching and speed training and all those things. So, it's tough. I've helped some kids, and I've worked with some younger kids. I just think the biggest thing is you always have to love it. If you're going to be great, you always have to love the game. And yes, you have to work hard at it, but you've got to be an athlete. The best players in the world are athletes. They do other things. They're good at other things. We've become so individualized, and I see so many kids have that singular focus at 12 years old. And in my opinion, sometimes you're setting yourself up for failure, because by the time 15, 16 years old rolls around, these kids burn out. And I think it's important to try to have a balance in sports, but also in life.
Do you remember maybe the first things your grandfather said to you that stuck with you as a little kid?
I mean, so a lot of the things he said to me, I can't say on here probably, but he was a lot harder on me as a coach, and a grandfather figure than I think most people probably. He was tough on me. I think he knew I was going to have to deal with a lot of Arnold Palmer's grandson narrative, and I think he knew I was going to need to have some pretty thick skin. So I think he was trying to toughen me up a lot. But from a coaching perspective, it was so incredibly simple. It was grip, posture, setup, takeaway. I don't think he ever watched me hit a golf ball and the comment after every time, even if I had the best shot I've ever hit in my life, was, that was quick. You need to slow it down. Everything was slow it down. And that's not something that's really taught more now. Everything's speed now, but nobody talks about tempo, right? And I think you see it with guys coming down, in the final round, like Jacob trying to win a tournament. Now, his ball striking didn't really waver much, but that 9-iron that he tried to hit on 17, that he wiped, that went 120 yards, that swing happened so fast he didn't even feel it, and that's a moment where he would have benefited from slowing down. And obviously, but his point was, when you get in those tough situations, you've got to slow down your mind. You've got to slow down your breathing. He didn't ever go into that detail, but he said it without saying it.
Yeah. And that's a good mix of what you're saying, the old school, new school. You see a lot of guys wearing these Whoop bands or other things, or we even see it on telecast where we can see that heart rate creeping up in those types of situations that Jacob was in. And it's not just him. Like, we can watch Rory and some of the best guys in the world where they have to really concentrate on the breathing. And I know Keegan Bradley, I spoke to his breathing coach a couple of times. I've talked to him, and you can see him do it in his whole approach before he sets up to hit the shot, where he puts his hand on his stomach so he can kind of center himself and feel the breaths. And it's something your grandfather taught you that was important to guys back in his era, and it's something now with technology that we can kind of monitor. But I don't think guys think enough about those things, the intangibles, the things that don't have to do with, the ball striking part.
Yeah. Positions in your gloves. Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. I find it interesting that Arnie everything was about tempo, because my old coach, who played the tour for a brief time back in the day, everything he kept saying to me was balance and timing, and then continually.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
Bobby, I know you've been chomping at the bit. Why don't you throw this one in there?
Oh,
so okay. Well, because we have Sam as a co-host this week, we have the API coming up. Occurred to me. Now, there's a little bit of nuance. There's a little bit of trickiness here, but I think all answers can be fair. Sam, you might not be able to join the contest. No, you can. That's fine. So the question really is, what was the first year of what is now the Bay Hill Classic or the Arnold Palmer? Now there's a little trickiness there. It started some years before Arnie brought it to Bay Hill, but let's talk about what was the first year the event that is the API was held at Bay Hill.
Can I go?
Yeah.
He knows.
I'm pretty certain 1979.
Very good. Yes.
Okay.
You
Okay.
remember who won?
Whew. I was nervous.
What was it called?
Do you remember who won, Sam?
79 Guyberger?
Nope.
No. I'm forgetting on that. And it was, well, let's see. It was when it was at Rio Pinar, it was the Florida Citrus Classic.
Right.
Sorry, I hope I didn't ruin another part of your next question. But then it was the, well, it wasn't the Bay Hill Invitational. No, that was later. There was Nestle. There were Cooper tires. I'm on a blank, honestly, what it was in '79.
It was Bay Hill Citrus Open, I think.
Citrus Open, yeah.
It was a mess of
But
the new
Bob
venue.
Bodman won that first year.
Who was it?
Bob Bodman.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, I can picture it now on the list and trophies and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So it had, but it started back in, I think it was '66, the first iteration. Then already Bay Hill, and it's obviously grown into what is now. What I don't know, but I wanted to throw this out to you, is who invented or created the red sweater that the winner gets?
Yeah, so good question. It's funny. I actually had that question today with a little, interview I did with an old friend. And the red cardigan is my granddad loved. He had this alpaca, the animal alpaca fur red cardigan that he wore a lot in the Open Championships and all of the cold weather. And it was, the red was just a look that, digging through the archives and seeing kind of the history, it was one of his favorites. It was kind of his go-to outerwear, if you will. In the days where outerwear wasn't much of a thing, they didn't have rain gear. They didn't have a lot of those, advanced apparel pieces that we do now. And the red alpaca sweater was just something that he loved. And we just thought it was a nice nod to the history of, his fashion and style and what he loved. And also just something meaningful that the winner can take home and hang in their closet and have it their homes forever.
It's so great. It's so distinctive too. I love it.
Yeah.
Sam, the article that you helped me with last week that we posted on Athlon about you coming up and under the tutelage of your grandfather, it was really, there were some good points in there that you made about, and again, this is something that generational golf professionals don't really get the chance to talk about, but there is that pressure that you feel as being someone whose father or grandfather, we're seeing it with Charlie right now. But I think Tiger does a really good job in mitigating that type of situation. But you really, it was some heartfelt stuff that you included in that article. And it was an honor to put those words on the website. Can you speak on that a little bit, trying to find your way as Arnold Palmer's grandson versus Sam Saunders?
Yeah, absolutely, Brendan. Thanks for saying that, first of all. And, there were certainly challenges when I was younger. I mean, you think about as a young boy, as you're growing up and you're maturing into a young man and you're going through hormone changes. You think you want to rule the world. You think you know everything at a certain point in life. I mean, I know my own boys are going through those changes now. So obviously as a, 17, 18-year-old kid that was pretty good at golf and got to the pretty high rankings in the junior world and was able to, get a scholarship to go play college golf. I thought I was, I thought I could go out there and be the best player in the world. And I love my grandfather and I obviously respected him more than anybody in the world, but I really wanted to be my own guy. So, when I turned pro and I started playing in tournaments and, if I was leading the tournament, they'd want to ask about my granddad. And if I shot 78 and missed the cut, they wanted to ask about him too. And it was a challenge for me. I mean, I'd be the first one to admit that, but, I grew to understand and appreciate just how one of one and unique of an individual he was, and the impact. He made a deeper impact on his fans than I think any sports person has ever made in any sport. I genuinely, I objectively believe that. I've never seen more people have story. I mean, I've had so many grown men and women come up and tell me their interaction with Arnold Palmer, and they get tears in their eyes and they get emotional about the moments that they had with him and the impact that they had on him. And that's just not something that exists anymore. So I once I got married and had my own kids and kind of gained a little perspective on life and the things that were, I I didn't need to be famous anymore. I didn't want that. I actually enjoyed a little bit of anonymity actually. And I really grew to appreciate just how special what he did was, and how special of an individual he was. And that all those feelings that I had growing up of trying to become my own man, and I am my own man. I'm my own man because of who I am as a person, who I am as a father, who I am as a husband and a friend, not who I am as a golfer, right? So that competitive nature with my grandfather, and that, part of it is that, like, it was almost a competitiveness with him. There was a point in my life where I wanted to beat all his records. I wanted to be better than he was, and I know he wanted me to think that way too.
Sam, I got a question, but kind of a behind the curtain question. So I personally think of Arnie, and I wasn't around back then, but hanging out at Augusta with Eisenhower, the swashbuckling at Cherry Hill, the Pennzoil commercials, the Lear Jets, the Arnold Palmer Ice drink. What's the behind the curtain iconic moment thing that you can say about your grandfather?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, off the cuff, I don't want to bring up one of the toughest moments of my life, but it was also special. But when I spoke at his funeral service in Latrobe at St. Vincent College in front of more people than I'd ever care to speak in front of in my life, Jim Nance was sitting behind me. Mr. Nicholas was on the booth across from me. My whole family was there. It was live broadcast on Golf Channel. I could barely breathe, and I was emotional too. I lost my grandfather. But I told a story, and it's a true story about when, he always picked up the phone when I called him. And I called him one time and he answered the phone, and he says, "Where are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Ohio playing in a tournament." And I said, "Where are you?" And he says, I'm with the president." And I said, the president what?" And he said, "I'm in the Oval Office. I'm with the president of the United States." And I said, I don't know how you have your phone in there, but you shouldn't be on your phone. But he said, "Well, I saw your call and I wanted to talk to you." And that is the probably the most unique behind the scene moment you could ever have with someone. So, and I don't think many other people in the world could get away with what he got away with there. And I don't think there was any disrespect in it. He just is who he was, and I'll never forget that he was always there for me. Really, in the end, too, a lot. He was there for me when I needed him, and we had a super special relationship.
Leading up to this week, you have a lot of duties now. Can you talk about that? Like how you really got into the position you're in now with not just the API, but with the foundation and everything that kind of carries on that legacy?
Yeah, it's been really great this past year to kind of be able to work alongside our team, both on the foundation side, on the tournament side, the golf course side, everything. It's incredible. We have so many great people that not just help run the Arnold Palmer Invitational with our tournament director and staff, but our team behind the foundation, which at the end of the day, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, we put it on, and it benefits the Arnold Winnie Palmer Foundation, which is hugely important to carrying on the legacy of my grandfather. I mean, he wanted to use the platform that he had and be the person that he was to make a positive impact on other people's lives. And he did that when he was here, and now through Arnold Winnie Palmer Foundation, that's how we keep that going. So it's been great to kind of be able to go out and speak on behalf of the foundation, and make continue to make a positive impact there. And but as for the tournament side, working alongside Drew Donovan, our tournament director, working with Chris Flynn, our director of agronomy at Bay Hill, has just been so much fun because I love golf. I understand, obviously, playing out there as long as I did, I understand what's a good PGA Tour event, what players want to see, what fans want to see. I've been fortunate enough to do broadcasts. I've worked on grounds crews, so I feel like I have a perspective from all different arenas of golf, and I've just tried to bring a little bit of that to help us put on the best event that we can put on, and be the best organization we can be. So, we've made we continue to make great little enhancements and tweaks to the golf course. I'm really excited about, what, Bay Hill has been such a great course over this last decade. It's really identified itself as one of the most challenging courses on the PGA Tour, but it's done so with consistency and thought. It's not, we're not trying to make it gimmicky and overly difficult by making irrational changes. Each improvement and change that we make there is with thought. It's trying to honor the history of the golf course, and it's trying to challenge the players in the most fair testing way possible, not just make it bigger or meaner or this or that. And I think it shows when you look at the level of players that we've had win. You've got everyone from, Rory McIlroy's and Scottie Scheffler's, and obviously Tiger's run there was epic. But, see a guy like Russell Henley win last year, who's carrying the ball 40 yards shorter than all the, the big guys. He was a ball striking machine, though. He went about, playing that golf course the way we asked you to play it, which is hit the ball in the fairway, hit an appropriate shot into the green, make putts. When you get out of position, get back in position. It really, I think Bay Hill is the type of golf course that the best player wins. And we've done that by, having an incredible staff there that get the course conditions firm and fast consistently every year. There's a penalty for missing fairways, which is becoming a lost art in golf. And you really accomplish that by having consistent, firm, fast greens. And that's what Bay Hill has identified itself as. And it's something that I personally am really proud of, because, that wasn't always the case at Bay Hill. We struggled agronomy wise in years past, and we are in a really good spot now. And I'm super proud of the team and the work that they do.
Hey, Sam, that was perfect. Well, Brendan teed it up perfectly for you with that answer, because I was going to ask you today, with everything that's happening recently in golf and the PGA Tour and the changes and LIV and Brian Rolap coming in and a lot of stuff going on, how that might affect you, or what would be the vision of the API looking 5, 10, 20 years down the road. You touched on that a little bit, but I was just curious, like you're really entrusted. You're the caretaker of Arnie and that legacy. And how does that look, trying to protect everything the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's tough. I mean, I want to be respectful and courteous in the way I always speak, because listen, I made a living and a livelihood being a member of the PGA Tour, and I'm the biggest fan of the PGA Tour there is at the end of the day, right? And obviously there have been challenges over the last few years, and I wasn't in Jay Monahan's shoes, and I'm not in Brian Rolap's shoes, and I think it's really easy for all of the armchair quarterbacks out there, myself included, to be critical of certain decisions that have been made, but we don't know. And all I can look at now is where we are now and where we're going in the future. And I would love to have the Arnold Palmer Invitational continue to be one of the most important events on the PGA Tour. But to kind of get to the meat of your question, I think, and I had a great meeting with Brian Rolap. We had a great conversation. Our team did, and it was wonderful to kind of hear the direction and vision that he has, and I'm excited and optimistic about the future. I really, for me and what I think my granddad wanted, he was all about competition, and he wanted the guys to show up, and he wanted them to play at his golf course. And I'll be blunt about it. I would love to see more guys play. I would love to have at least 100 players in our field. We have adapted to the times as needed. I think the tour has adapted as needed to try to make sure that things continue the direction they want them to go. And we want to be team players, obviously, but I definitely, would love to see, that real traditional competition, having a few more guys in the field, getting 100 guys, having a full size cut. Because gosh, I mean, you saw how great was last week, even though the cut at Riv was, a 15 player, kind of a 20 player cut like we have it at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. To watch Scottie Scheffler, the best player in the world, fist pump to make the cut. That's what golf is about. That's what separates golf from the other sports. There are no guaranteed contracts. There are no big, automatic money if you don't perform. And that's what I think the fans love about golf. And I just want to see that competition going forward. And I want all the guys who are, members of the PGA Tour and have earned the right to play. I want to see each and every one of them at Bay Hill every single year. And that, because I know that's what my granddad would want.
100%. I mean, I could go on a trip here a little bit, and if there's ever one event on the PGA Tour that everybody should be, I mean, it's your grandfather's. I mean, without him, where are we going to go with this PGA Tour? I worked for Dean Beeman for a while. I helped him open up his club in Virginia, and he told me some amazing stories about Arnie. I mean, when the tour split, the whole thing. I know the people that were there. Exactly what happened. I mean, with Jack and Arnie, they fostered that thing forward. It's Alan halfway, humorously called it the fifth major, but it's that important, the retrospective event that you honor the past.
Well, I mean, look at the field that you already committed at this point. And I know entries haven't closed, but you got 40 out of the top 50. You got 9 out of the top 10. You already mentioned him. I wanted to chat with him about at some point also a little bit. Scottie's going to be there. Everybody shows up at that event because they recognize the heritage of the event, the magnitude of your grandfather, and the quality of the golf course. Events and venues. And I know, and I say that because our own Andy Heidorn chimed in with a comment over here. He's on the road, but threw a comment in there. Iconic moments, Arnie hitting the driver off the deck at Bay Hill.
Yep.
And,
it's not just the top players, though. You look at some of the exemptions you guys give out. There's the young man from, where's he from, Texas, the college player.
Daniel Bennett.
Yeah, Daniel Bennett. That's a great example. Or
he's from the Arnold Palmer Cup. That's our exemption. Yeah. That's something, again, that's so unique about the Arnold Palmer Invitational. We get that Arnold Palmer Cup amateur exemption every single year, and it's something that is so important to the legacy of my granddad. He cared so much about the Arnold Palmer Cup and promoting that next generation. And it's I played with Maverick McNeely when he was the amateur playing as the Arnold Palmer Cup exemption, and he's a superstar now. So it's Bryson DeChambeau was on the Arnold Palmer Cup team, Colin Morikawa. I mean, it's a who's who list that plays in that event, and to see them come and become the best players in the world and compete in the Arnold Palmer Invitational as professionals later in their career is it's just so special.
And I could be a little biased being an Orlando guy that's had the privilege of playing Bay Hill 15 times, that not just are you guys a blueprint for how a PGA Tour event should be run, but from the side of the recreational golfer, for as much as I played there over the years, I only stayed at the lodge for the first time last summer with my dad and my brother.
Yeah.
And the vibes, the feel of that place. And you just did a lot of renovations recently too, not just with the lodge, but with the short game area and everything. It's been so cool to watch from the early 2000s, the first time that I played there, up until now, the progression of Bay Hill. And again, not just the tournament, but everything about it.
Well, you wrote one of the nicest articles I've ever read after your stay and play with your father there. So that was really cool. And I sent you a message on that, actually.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That was a great article. And I appreciate that you recognize it. I think to me, what makes Bay Hill unique is, history can't be bought. Tradition can't be bought. And in a world where everything is just torn down and rebuilt, we're trying to keep something special that's been there for a long time now. And you want to keep, yes, you want things to be updated. You want them to feel comfortable and clean and nice. And obviously, the golf course is one side, but everything from the lodge to the dining experience, but you want that character and soul to stay what it is. And I think Bay Hill, I mean, whether you go down in the locker room that's been refreshed, but it still has that old feel to it, where the guys are sitting around the table, the bartenders know your name, it's a locker room you want to be in. The staff interacts with you as if they've lived there their entire life, and it's family, because my granddad treated him that way, and my parents, Amy and Roy, have, continued that in the way they've run Bay Hill now as a club that operates every single day. And, it shows. And it's something that I'm really proud of, that Bay Hill is unique in that it's not trying to be the biggest. It's not trying to be the fanciest. Yep. It's trying to be Bay Hill. That's it.
I love that.
Yep. Hey, Sam, got maybe a little humorous question for you. A week or two ago, Alan comes out to Kentucky, visits me. We're doing some putting on my indoor putting range, and I'm using one of my old putters. I've got an old Cashin, an original Cashin. Mm-hmm. I've got some old stuff. So we're putting, and I'm knocking the ball in like crazy. I'm like, maybe I should go back to the Cashin. I mean, amazing feel. But have you used any of your grandfather's old stuff? And now I look at some of the clubs my dad used, that era used, the ball, the club. I'm like, how did they shoot these good scores? It's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually think I would have had a more successful PGA Tour career if I had played in the 70s and 80s before technology really boomed, because I actually loved shaping the ball, and I loved, being able to hit the small heads. I used blades. I used the Arnold Palmer original blades all the way up into college until Callaway. My granddad did his deal with Callaway, and then Callaway bought Hogan, so I used Ben Hogan blades when I was in college. But I was always a butter knife blade guy. I used a 2-iron. I used a steel shaft in my driver until I got to college. I really like the old school feel of things. And when the golf ball started flying a lot straighter, I definitely, it was a challenge for me. So I've got some pretty cool clubs down there. I've got a driver. One of my favorite pictures of my grandfather is it's my grandfather and Jack Nicklaus, and they're both, the camera's pointing this way like it is at me, and they're both holding the driver this way. And it's a Ben Hogan driver, and that's a driver my granddad won major championships with, and I've got it down in my basement, and I've hit it a couple times. I don't want to hit it just in case. And it's pretty, it's got the reminder on the back and of the grip, and obviously leather wrap, steel shaft. It's probably 43 inches. It's probably 5.5 degrees of loft, but it's fun. It's when you hit it in the screws, literally, it has an incredible feel.
That is so cool. I love that. That is so great.
Dare I ask the question of, this is in support of your grandfather. He was, when the Callaway deal happened, he was supporting the average golfer. He was the guy that was out there saying this is the product for the average guy. And I think he took a lot of backlash, and I'm going to blame the USGA. I'm right around the corner from him. So I have their right to do so. That was what your grandfather was all about, though. The average golfers, in promoting the game, we talk about it all the time. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think if you look at, objectively from my perspective, if you look at the identity of Arnold Palmer and what he did for the game of golf, he made it accessible and desirable for everyone, right? It was an elitist sport from an economic perspective when he was growing up, and he brought it to the blue collar, individual, and made it a sport that everyone wanted to try. And I think later in his life, if golf was elite in the equipment, an elitist sport in the equipment department, and he saw an opportunity for an equipment company trying to make golf more enjoyable and accessible for everyone, so that it wasn't an intimidating, I can't do this sport, it's too hard for me. Of course he jumped on that. And I think his intentions were spot on there. And look at how many people enjoy the game of golf today. And we've got everything from auto flex shafts to, kids custom sets of clubs that weigh so much less, so that little kids can enjoy and pick up the game and actually have success in it. That was the jump start to all these companies following suit and making game improvement equipment and stuff that made equipment that made golf more just enjoyable. And it's fun when you're good at something, right? If you go try a sport and it's impossible, it's going to turn people away. So no, I think just like everything else, he was ahead of his thinking there. Ahead of his time, I guess I should say.
But what was fascinating to me, though, was being that everyman for the blue collar, but how on the other side of things for the sports professional, how he just changed the game, not just for golf, but sports from the endorsement side and players being able to, you know, use their likeness and image to create income and wealth. And every conceivable, from the guys that play at the course all the way up to the, you know, the top professionals, he had an impact in every aspect of the game.
Yeah, I don't think most people really know that sports marketing did not exist. Arnold Palmer and Mark McCormick started the whole concept of a sports person being paid to play a sport and make a living doing it from an endorsement perspective. So yeah, it completely changed everything, and certainly right place and right time. I mean, I live an hour away from Cherry Hills, and we've developed an incredible relationship with that club, and they pretty much recognize that Cherry Hills would just be, it's a great golf course, great history, but if it weren't for that moment in 1960 when Arnold Palmer drove the green on the first hole and came back from 7 shots to win the US Open, that coincided with one of the first, you know, nationally broadcast live television golf events, it really puts sports on the map, not just golf.
Yep.
1000%.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Arnie also with the court design architecture, I mean, he was the first one to get out there as a player. So, I mean, he just set the you know, he led in so many different ways. It was remarkable.
Well, Sam, I wish, first of all, we're going to need to have you back on because we need to put you on the hot seat as Andy Hydorn. Right. Andy Hydorn has his famous hot seat, but I'm going to steal a couple of questions. I don't want to do Andy a disservice by trying to remember all of his questions he asked. What is your favorite golf course you've never played? I mean, you've been blessed and had the opportunity to play some great courses. What's the favorite that you haven't played? What's the one that you have enjoyed the most that you have played?
Favorite that I have, I guess, bucket list course that I'd like to play. I haven't played the old course at St. Andrews, so I need to play at the home of golf. I definitely do. That's, and I think I'm going to accomplish that next summer at some point. So that would definitely be kind of the one I haven't. I've been so fortunate to play most of the great ones in the United States. There's still a few I want to get to. And then I guess the greatest course, so it's the best course I've ever played, or most memorable, or, you know,
just the one that you've enjoyed the most. You may be flying there this coming week.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's it's there's definitely from a heart perspective, yes, Bay Hill has got to be up there as probably my favorite. But, you know, I look at so many different things. I love golf course design. I love architecture. I really love the agronomy side of it, and I'm pretty obsessed with golf courses. You know, handling their agronomy the right way. I think there's a lot of steps we can take in golf in the United States to try to keep golf more sustainable, keep the costs down a little bit, so that, you know, everyone can go out there and not pay $200 for greens fees at a public golf course. We got to use a little less product, use a little bit less water, but we got to change the perspective on what makes a golf course great, right? Not every golf course was meant to look like Augusta National. Just public service announcement out there. Brown is okay. Brown is good, right? So, I mean, gosh, it's so hard for me to narrow it down to one. You know, I love Augusta National. I love Pine Valley. But honestly, from if I'm going to stay consistent with my comments about agronomy, I really love Old Sandwich. Core Crenshaw's first. I really, for modern architectures, they're my favorite designers. I think they really fit golf courses into the land. I think their golf courses are, you know, challenge the player in a way that's not just about distance. You can use the ground, you can think, you can hit all the different shots. And I love firm, fast golf. So that's one of my favorites I've ever done.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah, I like that.
All righty, Bobby, let me find my button there. There it is. 18th green. Final thoughts.
Come on, can we play a few more with Sam?
I'd love to play. Yeah, absolutely.
We need emergency 9 with Sam. Thanks so much for being here, Sam. Just real privilege. Awesome having you here. I guess I had something else I was going to think about or talk about, but before we went on air, you mentioned something that I think needs to be brought up again. And when you go to the Arnold Palmer Invitational, you just said, as we were, sort of getting queued up here, you're going to be speaking and saying thank you to the 800 volunteers that are working the API. And you said people forget the volunteers really make those events run. They really do. And I worked at PGA headquarters for many years, and with the PGA Champ, the Senior, the Ryder Cup, I mean, you can't do anything without the volunteers. And to hear you say you're going to be there, you're flying in, I think it was like 8 in the morning, you're going to be there to say thank you and a welcome. That epitomizes Arnie, and that's why that event's great, and that's why you epitomize your grandfather. And I just think it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Very, very humbled. Thank you.
BE.
Well, obviously, next week's one of the biggest events of the year, not just for local Orlando guys, like I said earlier, but on the tour schedule. And I just did an article a couple hours ago about how important the Florida swing is, but also how it's changed up throughout the years. And I did talk about the citrus at Rio Pinar and how that all evolved. But this is the real ramp up between now, Bay Hill, the Players, Valspar, to getting us to that first major of the year in Augusta. So it's very much an exciting time in golf right now. And again, Sam, I want to echo what Bobby said. Thank you so much for coming on. You really are the epitome of what your grandfather tried to, show golfers and fans, non-golfers alike. So we appreciate your time.
I can't thank you guys enough. Been really fun to be here today talking with you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate all your kind words, and thanks for helping promote and support our tournament next week. I know it's going to be a great one, and certainly appreciate all the fans, all the volunteers, the media. It's a big production. It's a big family of people that care about the game to put this thing on and make it happen. So appreciate you guys doing your part.
Absolutely. And so my final thought is actually going to be 4 shameless plugs, if I can. One, just like Sam said, you got to get down to the Bay Hill. You got to go experience that event one time. Before we went online or started recording, I was sharing with Sam that D'Annunzio's Italian Chop House in the Arnold Palmer Airport in Latrobe, you got to eat there. Bobby, Kentucky Golf Trail, and a shout out to Gambler Ridge Golf Course, who tagged us in a post. I know the owner over there. They bought that golf course this past year. Shout outs to all those groups. So Sam, once again, I echo it for golf fans, my partners here. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to have you back on soon.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Would love to be back on anytime. Good chatting with you.
Love, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Give it to Arnie.
Thank you. You bet.
Until next week, folks.